In this episode of the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast, we are going to be talking about taking back control of your life. Most women, whether or not they realize it, but I feel like kind of when we get to midlife, we actually do begin to realize that we've kind of been surrendering control of our lives. We've kind of just been along for the ride. And by the time, at least for me, by the time I got to midlife, I thought, this is crazy. I'm not just along for the ride. I want to start making some of these rules. I want to start making some of these decisions. There is a lot more control that I can have over things than I have ever realized. And I've just kind of surrendered all of that. And so this episode speaks directly to what it looks like to take back control of your life, to get, as I call it, back in the driver's seat as opposed to in the back seat along for the ride, and really how to get in there and create the life that you actually want to have. You have a lot more say so in that than you probably realize, and that is what this episode is all about. And with that, let's dive in. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. As a midlife mom in her 40s, about to be a mom in my 50s, I've realized that it's so easy to lose yourself in caring for your family, your home, and all the things. Until one day you realize you're not even sure who you are anymore or what you even want in life. So on this podcast, we're going to work on managing yourself well so that you can manage all of the other things and people well too. So let's dive into what it means to manage your home, your time, your family, and yourself well. This is the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. Well, taking back control of your life. This sounds pretty awesome, I hope. Especially if you realize if you've gotten to a point in life and you think, how did I get here? What is even happening anymore? Who am I? What do I want? And how do I achieve that? Right? So many times, so many people ask really good questions about who I am and what I do as a life coach. And this really, what we're going to be talking about today, really is straight up concepts that you'll hear a life coach talk about. I've spent nearly 10 years helping women with the practical skills that I've learned as a homeschooling mom of 9. These are the sorts of skills that you can imagine that I've had to get really good at with a huge family. Things like time management, things like home management, and really the logistics of keeping all of the people and all of the things running every single day. And then, of course, there's also problem solving, finding motivation, finding time for the things that matter to me in the midst of juggling all the other things. But as a certified life coach, I've come to realize that there's even something more vital that women need when it comes to managing all of the things. And it really is learning to manage the person who has to manage all of the things. Essentially, it's and exactly, it's a matter of learning to manage you. Because as women, it's so easy to lose ourselves, and that drains us. And if we're not careful, we go into that living in survival mode place. And we can be there for a really long time, years even, and nothing good happens there. And so I'm here today to teach you. What I'm here to teach you is part of a 5-day challenge called the Write a New Chapter Challenge. And it's based on what I've created in the Chart Your Course framework. You may know that I love a good acronym, and CHART is an acronym. So the Chart Your Course framework in this challenge stands for C, clarity; H, harmony, finding harmony in your life; A, action, learning how to take the right actions that are going to get you to where you're trying to go; resilience, The R stands for resilience. This is something we need, right? Life has a way almost daily, sometimes more than one time a day, of knocking us down and really just kind of wanting to we find ourselves wanting to raise the white flag and just surrender for the day. I'm out. I give up. If you've ever said those kinds of things, resilience is what you need to build, that resilience muscle, as I call it. And then the T stands for transformation experience. So altogether, those are the pieces of the chart your course acronym that I teach about in that challenge. Because whether you realize it or not, life doesn't have to push you around while you're just along for the ride. You're not at the mercy for all of the things and all of the people that you come into contact with. But so often women feel lost, and this happens for a variety of reasons. It could happen because you're just too busy to pay attention to who you are and where you're going. It could be because you're looking for your purpose again when a life-changing event occurs. Think kids graduating, think kids moving out, think job changes, retirement, health changes, limitations. These are all these types of life-changing events that can leave us really wondering what's even happening anymore. Oftentimes, women feel lost during times of transition, right? This is when we get out of our old habits and routines and ways of doing things, and life has changed. Some of the variables and pieces of our life has changed. And so we need new habits, we need new routines, we need new ways of doing things, and we have no idea how to do that. We just know that the old stuff isn't working, and we just kind of stay stuck there. So those are some of those times of transition when the old ways of doing things just don't work, but we don't know how to fix it. Oftentimes, women can feel lost during seasons when life just feels hard. And when life is hard, it takes a lot out of us. And as a result, we go into that survival mode. And even when we get through whatever the trial is, we're left unsure of what happens next and who we are. And so, when it comes to the things you do and don't do every day, you won't know what actions to take unless you know where you're going. And if that feels lost and uncertain, well, you can see how every day you just kind of feel stuck. You just kind of get into this Groundhog Day pattern of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, week after week, month after month, sometimes year after year. And it's so disheartening. And so you've really got to have the complete package of practical skills and you management skills. And so that's really what we're doing here in this episode. And it really is what I'm all about as a lifestyle life coach. That's what I call myself. And so, with that, let's jump into that C of that chart your course framework. We're going to jump into clarity. What do I mean by clarity? What I mean by that, in terms of taking back control of your life, is clarity gives you a clear understanding. It helps give you a clear understanding of who your most beautiful and amazing self is inside and out. It's answering the question of who do you want to be when you show up for yourself and others. Again, so often as women, we feel lost, but we feel like we are the roles and responsibilities that we have to fulfill. And we lose sight of who we are as people, or that we are a person. We're not just that role. We're not just that responsibility. We are a person who is managing and fulfilling those roles and taking care of those responsibilities. But the water gets muddy so easily. We will always have roles and responsibilities and people counting on us. But we can't lose sight of who we are or that we are our own person. And these types of the muddy water is common when you're running on fumes, when you're lacking in self-care, and when you're carrying a lot of daily responsibilities, maybe even a lot of the family responsibilities in your home and with your family life on your own. We do not we do not come to this place of survival mode or feeling lost by accident. We're tired. And maybe like me, you're realizing that the years you've whittled away just going through the motions, well, you don't get those years back. And so I call this living your life in the back seat. This is where life happens to you rather than in the driver's seat, where you decide where you're going and what you're doing. And so the way that I teach getting clarity of who you are and where you're going, again, apart from your roles and responsibilities, maybe you've got roles and responsibilities as a mom, maybe as a homeschooling mom. I've got those. Family manager, maybe you work, maybe you volunteer. You're the person who taxis people around. You're the person who maybe does the shopping or organizes the shopping, makes the lists, makes sure there's the food for the this, that, or the other thing, gets the meals on the table, make sure that everyone knows what they're doing when, coordinates all the appointments, all the practices, all the this, that, and all of the other things. You're the person who does all of that. And so the way that I teach really being able to get this clarity of who you are and what you're doing and where you're going is with a concept I call the dream circle. And it breaks down in these, again, it's another acronym, DREAM, and it breaks down in this way. The D stands for desire. If you're trying to get clarity of who you are, what your purpose is every day, where you're going, how do I know what to say yes to and how to say no to? If you're struggling to gain clarity in answering these kinds of questions, it starts by knowing the D, desire. What do you want? If you could just say what it is you want, what would you say? As I think about this question, for me, one of the main ways that I would answer this question is freedom. I want freedom. I want time freedom. I want financial freedom. I want the freedom to make my own choices, to change course when I want to or when I need to. I want the freedom to pursue the relationships and the experiences that are meaningful to me. That's the way that I would begin to answer that question if I were to ask myself, just like I'm asking you, what is it that you want? That's the D, desire. And then we move to our roles. So this means, who do you want to be in the different roles that you have? If you have the role of a mom, what does that look like? And chances are, if you were to say, who do I want to be as a mom? If you've got toddlers, well, you would answer that question one way. And if you used to have toddlers and maybe like me, you've got teens and even adults that you're a mom to, well, you would answer that question completely different. As the roles change, as our kids get older in terms of being a mom, well, the way that we want to show up as a mom also changes. Now, you've got plenty of other roles in addition to mom, if you happen to have that. But who do you want to be in the different roles? If you could write yourself a job description for each role, let's say that you're the boss of each of those roles. Maybe you've got 6 different roles that you would lay out. Maybe you're helping care for family members. That's one role. You're a mom. You're a home keeper. You're a volunteer. You're a CPA in your work, whatever it is. If you were to be the boss of that role and you were assigned the task of writing a job description for the person who's going to show up and fulfill that role, what would that look like? What would that job description look like? What would your expectations be? What would the markers be to know whether you're successful or not? Those are the types of questions that can help you in defining who you want to be in the roles that you have. R stands for roles. If you want to gain clarity in who you are and where you're going, you have to think about, who do I need to be in the roles that I have? I can promise you, you're not showing up as a mom or as a volunteer or as a worker. You're not showing up every day and asking, how can I mess this up? How can I best mess this up today? No, you're showing up every day and you want to do your very best. You want to fulfill that role in the best way possible, whether you have conscious thoughts about that or not. And so, thinking about the R, the roles, and really defining that in this way will help you know what it would look like. What would you have to do? And what would you have to say no to in order to fulfill these roles each and every day in the best way possible? Spending some time thinking about that can help you gain clarity in what it would look like for you to have control of your life. You get to spend some time thinking about that as you outline these roles. So that's the R, roles. And then we move to E. And what the E stands for in the acronym of DREAM, which again, the DREAM circle is helping us gain clarity on who we are, where we're going, what life looks like every day for us. E stands for execution. So this means, how do you want to spend your time? What do you not want to put on the back burner anymore? And if you're someone who feels like, you know what, I don't know who I am or where I'm going, chances are you've put a lot of your own desires, a lot of your own goals, really a lot of the big and small ways, some of the big and small things that you want, you've likely put those on the back burner for a time. And that's okay. While we're busy in the trenches of everyday life, just trying to survive and keep the people alive, that's a normal thing to do. But as you start to get to the point in life where you realize, you know what, I'm not getting any of these moments back. I want to make the most of my life. I do want to be the best, most beautiful version of myself. Well, we've got to make sure that you're not putting the things that matter to you entirely on the back burner anymore. And so execution asks you to think of, how do you want to spend your time? Of course, there's always going to be plenty of, I call them have to ways to spend your time. Yes, you have roles and you have responsibilities, you have commitments, you have people depending on you to do certain things, but there is always going to be an element of your time that you do get to have a say so over. And how is it that you want to spend that time? That's what execution speaks to. And if you're looking for clarity on how to spend your time every day and how to make sure that you're not whittling away the days and the weeks and the months and the years that you have, well, you're going to need to answer the question of, how do I want to spend time? What is important to me? In addition to all of the have to things, that's E, execution. And then we move to A, attitude. This is a big one, because what attitude means is, how do you feel about yourself? And how do you feel about those you are in relationship with? How do you feel about your relationships, the quality of your relationships with the people who matter to you? And what's the quality of the relationship you have with yourself? What's your self talk like? What do you say to yourself about yourself every day? For many of us, if we're not watching what we're doing, we talk more harshly to ourselves about ourselves than we do anyone else. We have more unrealistic expectations of ourselves than we do of anybody else. We have a lot more compassion generally for other people than we do for ourselves. And so, attitude asks you to ask yourself, how do you feel about yourself? And how do you feel about your relationships with those who matter to you? And if they're not where you want them to be, or where you know they should be, well, then you know, I need to spend some of my time, some of my effort, some of my most valuable resources on improving my attitude towards myself and in how I feel about those I'm in relationship with, how I interact with those I'm in relationship with. Maybe you're realizing, I need to be more intentional in relationships. I haven't really been present in relationships. That's something I hear so often. I just want to be more present. I feel like I'm always just flying around with my feeling like I'm going a mile a minute and I can't ever catch my breath. And so as a result, I don't even know what's happening most days. I feel like I kind of have the bird's eye view, but I'm not actually there. I'm not actually experiencing my life. I want to be more present. I hear this a lot. And this attitude, examining your attitude about yourself and others, What's going to help you know where to focus some of your time, attention, and other most valuable resources so that you can get your relationships with others and with yourself on the playing field you actually want to be playing the game on. But it starts with you gaining clarity first on what is your current attitude about yourself and others, because we don't know how to fix something if we don't know what it is we need to fix. And so you need to spend your time examining how do I feel about myself and how do I feel in my relationships with those who matter to me. That's what attitude is all about. And then the M in the dream circle stands for maintenance. Maintenance, taking care of yourself. It's answering the question, what does it look like to be healthy? What does that look like to you? Most of us are very unhealthy. And when I speak about health, I really think there are three major ways that we need to focus on our health. One of them is the kind of the one we always think about, right? Our physical health. But there's also our mental health and there's also our emotional health. These are three heavy hitters. And what would it look like for you to be healthy in all three of these areas? That is all wrapped up in this maintenance. What does it look like to be healthy? Again, so often we're stuck in the hustle and bustle and the doing all the things for all the people all day long, every day, that thinking about and paying any attention at all to our health, physical, mental, emotional, is something we just don't feel like we have the ability to worry about. But if you're not healthy in those, at least those three ways, if you're not at least some version of healthy on the road to becoming healthier in those areas, how good are you showing up? How well, what sorts of actions are you going to be taking in managing your life every day? You might think it's strained relationships you're struggling with, and maybe that is part of it to some extent. But you're not healthy. Your mental and emotional state is not one of overall health. And so how are your relationships going to be healthy if one half of the equation, you, isn't healthy? How can you possibly have a healthy relationship with yourself or someone else if your mental and emotional health is on the rocks? You might think you have a time management issue, and maybe you don't manage your time well. But at the core, where we need to look first is how well are you managing yourself? Before you worry about your time, how are you managing yourself? And if your emotional and mental and even your physical health isn't something you're spending intentional time on the regular, well, you're not going to be healthy. And a person who is unhealthy is not going to manage their time well. And so this dream circle, focusing on desire, focusing on the roles that you have, focusing on execution. How am I going to spend my time? Focusing on attitude, spending some time really working on maintenance and what it means to be healthy. These are all vital components to what it means to take back control of your life, to put yourself in the driver's seat. It starts with this clarity. We need to have clarity on these things so that, again, we know where we're at, we know where we want to go. And when we know those two things, well, then we can start thinking about what would the path look like to get me there. Knowing that the relief, knowing that the benefits don't just happen when you arrive at the destination. When you know who you are and where you want to go, when you know what it actually means to take back control of your life, when you've defined that, using some of the skills that we've talked about today, there are others, but this is a really important one to start with, this clarity. Well, you know, again, what direction to start heading in. And once you start being present, once you start being intentional with yourself, with your time, with what you prioritize, with what you're spending your thoughts on, with the thoughts and feelings that you're having, when you're doing that in a more intentional and healthy way as you've decided healthy would look like, it's amazing how much better you feel. You start to find things like joy and peace and calm. You start to gain confidence in the things that you say yes to and the things that you say no to. Again, you've got this clarity as you approach every day, as you approach different situations, and that sense of pride and accomplishment that you experience when you actually start working towards some of the goals and intentions that you have. It's amazing how your attitude changes. It's amazing how your thoughts transform, which then makes your feelings transform. If you know that the majority of the feelings that you're feeling are on the negative end of the spectrum, when you start experiencing thoughts that more often fall on the spectrum and the side of the positive side of the equation, small shifts take place, but the rewards that you experience overall when you spend more time on the positive side of the spectrum, they are things that you will not miss. You will look different to yourself than you do now. And soon after, you'll start looking different to other people. Other people will start noticing a change in you. They'll start to wonder. Maybe they'll even say, you seem different. You seem calmer. You don't seem as down. You don't seem as depressed. You seem more energized. You look like you have more energy. You're around more. You're present more. I've seen you smile. I didn't realize how long it had been since I have seen you smile until all of a sudden I notice you smiling now. These are the types of things that you'll notice and other people will notice. But these things are not going to happen. These things are not going to improve if you are not taking back the control in your life. If you are not intentionally spending your time, your efforts on learning things like this and implementing what you learn, you're going to forever stay stuck where you're at. And most likely that's in that back seat where you're just along for the ride every day, hoping for the best. My goal is just to make it through the day. Friend, if that's your goal, you are missing the boat. You are missing the opportunity that you have in your life. You are missing the opportunities that you have to build meaningful relationships that fill you up, that bring your joy, that bring that sense of calm and organization and feeling like you're in control rather than life is just slapping you upside the head every single day. Imagine what that would feel like. If you recognize that you are in the back seat, if you recognize that that really is the kinds of things you think every day, I'm just hoping to survive. I just need to make it through the day. If you recognize that that is you, just spend a moment trying to picture what it would feel like to not say that. What would it feel like to approach the day and say, I get to do these things today. I know that some of what happens today, I get to choose. And here are the types of things that I'm going to choose. Just picture what that would feel like. Not even what that would look like, but what would that feel like? What would it feel like to feel joy? And how would you approach everything and everyone if you had an overall feeling of joy? Everything is not ever going to go your way. I wish I had a magic wand to make that happen. But when you start finding your joy because you're taking back control of your life, it's going to change the amount of joy and peace and contentment that you feel every day. And that changes everything and everyone. That changes the touch points you have with everything and everyone. This is such an incredible gift. And it's a gift that you not only give yourself, this being present, this taking back control, it's a gift you give to everyone that you come into contact with. You love those people in your life that are meaningful to you. You love them deeply. You love them fiercely. Why not spend some time doing the work to get yourself healthy, to think through the different pieces in the dream circle that we talked about today, to gain that clarity and to get yourself on that path to intentional living, that path that's going to help you be that beautiful, best version of yourself. Why not spend some time doing that? My guess is what you're doing isn't working real well. If you're lacking joy, if you're lacking contentment, if you feel out of control, the opposite of calm, the opposite of present, if you feel unhealthy, you and others deserve the time and effort, some time and effort that you could put forth in really thinking through and going through the work of what we talked about here today. It doesn't take much for the pendulum to start swinging in the other direction and for you to start experiencing those feelings of joy, peace, calm, contentment, those things that feel lost. It doesn't take much. But what we talked about today is a great place to start. I'm so excited to share these concepts with you. Again, we go deeper in these concepts in the Write a New Chapter challenge. I host that challenge a few different times throughout the year. It's something I'll tell you about again when I teach that again. The dream circle that we talked about today and that clarity is day 1 of that challenge. But that challenge is designed to do exactly what we talked about, for you to take back control of your life. Stop just going through the motions. Stop waiting for things to get better or things to feel easier. You have the ability to make those feelings happen by getting out of the back seat and getting into the driver's seat. And it starts with the dream circle that we talked about today. So I'm so excited to share this with you. I'm so glad that you took the time to listen to this episode all the way to the end. I encourage you and I challenge you to turn this one off, share it with somebody that you know needs it, and work through what we've talked about today. Dive in. Give yourself the gift of 15 minutes right now to jump into whichever letter feels easiest. You don't have to do them in order. If you don't want to start with the D, then don't. If thinking about maintenance, if thinking about what healthy living looks like, if that feels easier, jump in and start there. Just start. Give yourself 15 minutes to start. That's the challenge I have for you today. Until we talk again, make it an amazing day.